Hello, 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 and welcome to the Good Bad Human channel. Alice J here. Hell hath no fury, but a woman scorned. Iconic line. We all know that line. We all agree with that line. We all have experience with that line. Yet, I would say that there's something very counterintuitive with that line. Hell hath no fury? Really? Because when I think of, if you were to tell me to picture hell's fury and personify it, I would see a male figure, right? When you think of all the wars, people like Genghis Khan. When you think of the majority of domestic violence cases, when you think of just how angry, how scary anger can get, I would attribute that more to men than women, right? Yet, this iconic phrase is known and repeated and quoted by everyone, and nobody refutes it, okay? And I think it's because we fear what we do not understand well. Something about male rage is not that complex. I mean, the reasons for the rage, obviously, psychologically, for everyone are very complex, but the rage that men feel, it feels like something that we understand and that we're accustomed to. Something about female rage truly sends a shiver down your spine. It is revered. Wait. I'm not sure revered is the word I wanted to use. I'll check in the edit and put it here if it's not the case. Sorry. But there's something so, because it is, and we'll see this in the video, because it is a taboo, because it is often shamed in society, because it is repressed, then everything that is repressed comes out in more insidious and subversive forms. Like the nuances, and we'll see it with our case study today, all the various shades of female anger are very diverse, and that's what's scary about it, because it's very hard to have a full grasp on it, and so you can't really prepare for it in any way. Sometimes you don't even notice that it's there. I'm pausing because I'm realizing that growing up, I've really had a very direct experience with a lot of those shades, unfortunately. And yes, it is a fascinating and terrifying topic. Okay. But I think it's an important one, because just like the fascination that we have in the media, whenever female rage in any of its nuances is shown as in media, in films, in stories, it captivates everyone, men and women, young, old, people of any social circle, it captivates them. And it is an important topic because I think it is one that many people have had pretty much everyone has had direct experience with, and has been a victim of the fact that female anger is taboo, and it is repressed, and it is shamed. So to explore all of that, I'm going to use the case study of the Real Housewives of London. This is more complicated, this whole chart, than it seems. We're just going to zoom in one by one. It's going to be very clear, and I hope pleasant and easy to understand. There you go. Through this case study, there's a couple of things that I want us to understand throughout this whole video, which is how in many social circles, female anger is seen as the ultimate sin. How the shame that is put upon female anger the consequences of that on people who have unbridled anger, like our main character today that we're going to see, but also the devastating consequences that it has on people who repress that anger. And I've suffered immensely from that for many, many years. Lastly, we're going to see how in both cases, there is a resolution and there are healthy ways to actually express your anger. It doesn't have to be completely repressed, and it also you don't have to explode every time something happens, okay? But both the repressed and the unbridled anger in women, they're actually kind of like a yin yang, and they often trigger each other, but the keys of healing are actually in each other as well. Let's get to it. So the taboo of female anger, we're going to do a little psychoanalysis of one scene, one episode, because I've only watched the first few episodes. I'm going to be honest, I don't really want to watch that many more. I kind of stopped at the 4th episode. I was like, I've seen enough. And I saw the summary of the next couple of episodes and it was going to be all fights. I was like, no, I'm good. Because in my opinion, good reality TV, it needs to have drama, obviously. That's what comes to mind when we first think of it. But it also needs to have emotional, wholesome moments. And lastly, a third and underrated aspect of reality TV, it has to be funny. There needs to be comedic relief. There was none of that in this franchise. I've never watched The Real Housewives in general. I decided to pick London because there was only one season and it felt a little bit less intimidating compared to the franchises where there's 17 seasons. Also, I lived in London and I kind of wanted to see how the people in those circles of London acted, and I didn't really like it. It was not good vibes, okay? But the first 2 episodes and the first drama really made for an excellent case of the complexity of the taboo that is female anger. So let's get to it. It's okay if you haven't watched it. Honestly, it's not a big deal. I'm just going to walk you through the main plot points just so you understand what we have to understand with this topic. So this is our main character, Panthea. She is a woman who is married to a rich British man. She has fled her country of origin, Iran, during the revolution in the late 1970s. So that's already a huge trauma, as you can imagine. And she was raised by her single mom, and we're going to see that is a whole mess in itself, and the reason why she is the way she is. The way she is, you're going to get it. You're going to get exactly the way she is by the first fight that I'm going to tell you about. I called it Dentist Gate. So here we have 2 women who are friends. We're going to see these are all the housewives. They're all friends from the upper echelon of British society, okay, in London at least. Panthea and Juliet are friends. They have a friend in common who's a dentist. Panthea, as one does, contacts her friend and says, oh, you're a dentist and you're my friend. Let me send you my child. I just wanted you to do like a teeth cleaning for my child or something like that. I can't remember exactly, but it was a small procedure that she was asking for, okay? She sends her son there. Her son comes back with, I can't remember whether it was fillings or extractions, but he comes back with way more, and he comes back with permanent modifications done to his teeth, okay? Panthea goes crazy. She calls the dentist. She's like, why does my son have so many fillings? It was several. And the dentist says, oh, well, I just felt like he needed them, blah, 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 blah. She goes crazy because why didn't you ask, before changing permanently my son's teeth, why didn't you call me? Also, where's the x-ray? Prove to me, show me the x-ray that you did before that showed you that he needed all those fillings or extractions or whatever. Conveniently, the friend didn't have the x-ray. She forgot to take it or whatever. Honestly, based on the facts alone, and this is very important to understand this, why this made me want to talk about the fact that female anger is taboo. But on the facts alone, Panthea is 100% right to be upset. Any dentist, honestly, would not have done his job or her job by doing this, but especially your friend. How dare you do that to my child? Like, I would have also been upset. But the thing is, Panthea, I cannot, by the way, huge disclaimer for this. I am not on anyone's side. I'm not saying that there's a good person here in all of these characters, a bad person. To me, they are all a little bit unlikable from what I've seen. I don't know them in real life, but I'm not defending and saying that it's black or white. I think they all have their issues, and you could see that it's also largely a result of their upbringing. This channel is called the Good Bad Human channel for a reason. Nothing is black or white, okay? But we're gonna see that for Miss Panthea, everything is black or white. I don't want to diagnose anyone, but she exhibits a lot of traits of someone being on the BPD spectrum. She's very intense. She's always talking very loudly, and she has a very erratic cadence. And she loves very loudly, but the moment she perceives anyone being fake or a little bit hypocritical or betraying her, all hell breaks loose, okay? So she goes off on this dentist. She screams to her. She kind of like, she can't stop calling her and texting her and insulting her, saying that she's going to destroy her life. She goes online and completely tarnishes her name and her reputation as she tries to, at least, etc., etc. This is where Juliet enters the picture. Juliet here is, I believe, of Australian origin. Like, she's originally from Australia, but she's been in the UK for very long, and she also married very rich, and also I think her husband is from an important British family. I'll spare you the details because I don't remember them. It doesn't really matter. But you can see that the way she talks about it, the connections that her husband has, she loves it. But anyway, she's very vanilla. She's not. If she's chocolate, she's vanilla, okay? If she's spice, she's ice. She's very British. She has, you can see that she adapted a lot more to the British culture in terms of, oh, you have to be very polite. It's all about pleasantries and just the overall harmony of the setting. She is very conflict avoidant, and here is where the perceived betrayal happens for Panthea. Because they are both friends with this dentist, Panthea was sure, like, she called Juliet crashing out during her crash out and saying, like, look at what she did to my son, blah, 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 like screaming. Apparently, Juliet did not really want to hear her out, did not offer any support, and she kind of ghosted her. Panthea explains in the beginning that she has tried to contact Juliet, and also, like, when they would see each other at gatherings, because they're in the same social circle, she would go to see Juliet and be like, can I talk to you about this dentist thing? And Juliet would always be like, no, like, not here. It's not proper here. Like, this is a nice dinner. This is a wedding, whatever. Anyway, she's been avoiding the heck out of Panthea, and ever since then, to Panthea, who again, I believe is on the BPD spectrum, she felt it as the ultimate betrayal. She says it many times in every single episode. She's like, I'm huge on loyalty. I hate lies. I hate fake people. And every time she's talking to someone, like her husband, her other friends, blah, 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 she's like, what do I always say? And the other person's like, you hate lies and you hate betrayal. It is what it is. But she will not stop talking about this drama and chewing people's ear off any chance she gets. Like, she is a walking ball of rage. That's how it starts. This is like the first half of the episode. Second half of the episode, you kind of get to know about the other housewives. They all live very beautiful, lavish lifestyles. They're all very high achieving, well established, yada yada, well connected. Amanda here is kind of the unspoken leader of the group, and I think people take that a little bit too literally. It doesn't mean that she bosses them around. It's more of a rapport de force, meaning you can just feel that she is the one who, her opinions are the ones usually that the others will agree with. If you know about female groups and their dynamics, you know exactly what I mean. And so this woman, Amanda, who has this huge skincare company, apparently got divorced a couple of times. And the last time it was the most lucrative divorce settlement of the UK per, I can't remember, but other housewives were talking about her and saying that. So yeah, it's huge. So she organizes this enormous party in the first episode in honor of Women's Day. I think it's International Women's Day. Something like that, definitely. And the thing is, everybody's there. Everybody arrives except for Panthea, who arrives late. I don't know if that's staged or whatever. I wouldn't be surprised. But anyway, that's not important. Panthea arrives. She's not even sitting down. She says hello to everyone. She says hello to Juliet. And Juliet, again, like I said, she's this type of woman who would rather preserve the harmony, and just for the sake of the party, she will be very pleasant and act like nothing has happened. So she says hi to Panthea. She's like, wow, you look gorgeous, Panthea. Very beautiful, blah, blah, blah. Panthea immediately, she looks at her. She's like, yeah, you're beautiful too, but no need to be fake. Immediately, all the women, and this is what we're going to talk about, shock. Like they've never seen this in their lives in person or in their upbringing, or like, it's just, she committed a very big social crime, a very big social faux pas. They all look like they're deers in headlights. They do not know what to do. Like, this is not in the instruction manual that they have learned and downloaded in their brains. Their body is in fight or flight. Everybody's panicking, okay? Because until then, you could see the party the way it was going. It was like, oh, hello, darling. How have you been? Yeah, la, 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 la. Oh, yes, my son. You know how it goes in those type of parties. At least you've seen it. I've more so seen it on screen. And so she goes off and she creates immediately the scene. They both sit down. A bunch of the other girls sit down at the table, and it's just Panthea screaming at her. But to be honest, what I found a little bit yucky from Panthea, first of all, yeah, the way you did it, like you arrive at this party and immediately you scream and you make it everybody else's problem instead of taking her to the side, whatever. Second of all, she starts really berating Juliet and saying stuff that has nothing to do with the dentist gate and the betrayal for the most part, which really hurts her cause, because the other girls were like, okay. Like, she says stuff like, oh, I know that you borrow your clothes, blah, 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 blah. Like, kind of like mean girl shit, honestly. And the reason she does that, you understand, it is because she's like a child. She has a lot of like these, she is on the BPD spectrum. And what is she's doing? People with BPD, when one of their favorite people betrays them, or at least that's what they perceive, they do something that is called splitting. So it's like, oh, you were black and white thinking, like you were an angel to me in my perception, and now you're the devil. And now I am so hurt. My wrath, hell hath no fury like a woman scorned. Okay. I will insult you. I will do everything to berate you with everything that I've got. That's just what it is. Like everything you do is disgusting to me, and I will say it to everyone. I will tarnish your name every chance I get. Very BPD coded, okay? I've seen it up close. It's not a pretty sight. It's not a pretty sight. Anyway, this happens after the fight. Panthea leaves. So she came to the party. She created chaos and she left. A couple days later, this is why I put these three together. These three and Karen here, they gather for a sort of like yoga qigong class. They do the class, and at the end, they just sit down in a little circle. And here, Amanda, who's kind of the leader of the group, she starts the conversation. And this is what I mean in female groups, if you're not too familiar with them, but there's often like someone who sets the tone. So she arrives and she says, oh, so that party, what happened at the party, that was a lot. At my party, that was a lot, right? Honestly, I feel like it was of really bad taste. And honestly, I think that Panthea's behavior, it is really incompatible with someone. It is not congruent with someone who wants to be around elegant women. What she's doing here is that she's initiating something that happens in female groups. Unless you've been homeschooled, you've probably seen it at school at least once. It happens very early. I've seen it happen. It kind of happened with me once. So, which is the female social exclusion tactic. It's done in a very pernicious way, but it's deadly, okay? The others, these two, are about to agree with her and follow her, as they often do, when this queen who's with them comes out and stops whatever's happening. She's not following the leader of the group. And she's like, no. She truly, from the beginning, you see that she has this quiet strength quality from it. She comes from Jamaica, okay? First of all, from the start, you see that she lives for the tea. Like when Panthea goes off, she's like, ooh. She even organizes another party later on, and she's like, I hope they start fighting again because it's not resolved. I was like, that's so messy. But anyway, she puts a halt to whatever like she's initiating, that exclusion process. And she says, listen, I'm not going to be vulgar. I love it because while the other was using words such as, she's not elegant, she's also using words. And by the way, when she said what she said, the other three just shut up. It was the end of the conversation. She's like, no, I'm not going to condemn her right away and decide that I don't like her right away. Everybody just expresses anger and hurt differently. But it doesn't change the fact of the fight, which is, this dentist friend that we had fucked up my son's teeth and you completely ghosted me after that. And I think obviously the fact that she's Black, it is not a coincidence. The fact that she's Black and she's the one coming to Panthea's, another woman of color's, defense, because she knows what it's like to be called this angry, to be shamed for her anger and her loudness, etc., etc. Like, can I speak? Black women often have this very negative stereotype when they get angry. And we're going to see this later on in our commentary, but it is so misogynistic. And the women from these circles, it is very dehumanizing when they think that they have the right to remove the femininity, to take away the femininity from these women for expressing anger, for calling them womanly. Like that's a very violent act and making them feel like they are not being women right now. Kind of like when men are shamed for being sad. It's like, oh, you're being a pussy. I hate that. But you're just not a real man. It is a violent act because if you are actually and fully identify as a man or a woman, that can really mess you up when everybody around you suddenly says that you're not just because of a basic human emotion. Okay? Now, we're going to see the most important piece of the puzzle, which is Panthea's mom. This was so, like, seeing her relationship with her mom, it was kind of triggering because I've been around women like that growing up. And I understand the pain that she went through. Not exactly the same, but certain things that we're going to see. And then once you're going to see it, you're going to be like, oh, this completely makes sense. Like, this was her villain origin story. So Panthea's mom, since the start, when she's introduced, Panthea herself says, yes, she's a scary woman, blah, 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 blah. You're first introduced to her as she comes to Panthea's home for lunch. And immediately, this is the trigger moment because I have had to live that so many times. Her mom arrives, doesn't even say hello, anything. The first thing she looks at her daughter up and down and immediately starts criticizing her looks-wise. Like, oh, why are you putting a lash? Everything fake. Like, this looks like so vulgar, whatever. You look like a fake, like plastic doll, whatever. The things that does to you, I've definitely been around women as a little girl where it's like, I see them. It could have been weeks, months, a year that I haven't seen them. They say hello and hug like the boys and everything. And they say hello to me, look me up and down. And immediately it's like, oh, your clothes look like shit. Your makeup looks like shit. You gained weight. You lost too much weight. Yada, 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 your hair. If that's you, what you need to do, you need to do the work to understand years later that all those voices that are critical in your head now regarding every aspect of your looks now, they are not yours. You take them out, you throw them back into the space, and whenever someone gives you that energy, you rebuke it. You rebuke it. You don't do this physically, obviously, because unlike Panthea, you're trying to still have a filter on. But in your head, whenever I get that energy now, I'm like, rebuke, rebuke, rebuke. I do not accept that energy. And in my head, I imagine that someone's sending it to me and it just like goes back to them like that. And so I just look at them. I'm like, absolutely. It works. It works really well. Anyway, her mom, she grew up with her single mom, refugee in London. But her mom is very narcissistic. Like she's always been in competition with her daughter. I don't wish that on anyone. A lot of neglect, lack of love, support, trust. Okay. When I say neglect, she did not care or look at her daughter. Like, you know how we all need to be seen? She did not see her daughter at all. It was all about her. She explains also in that same scene that from the ages of 7, 8, 9, she can't remember exactly, her mom asked her to stop calling her mom and she had to call her by her first name because she did not want people to know that she was her mom. Can you imagine how hurtful that is? I can't, like, I really feel for her. That's such a negation of your existence. Also, you are told, we are so wired to love our mom and to expect the famous motherly love that is so undeniable, that people say is the one love that nobody can deny and that is stronger than everything else. Girl, That is very violent, especially because she doesn't have a dad. And we're going to see that in a second. But because of all that, this explains, like, when I saw that, I was like, oh, this is why, first of all, she's like, her energy is so erratic, and why she keeps saying that her biggest triggers are liars and fakers. That's her mom. All of her deep suffering, she had to grow up with this mother whose love she was so desperate for, but who would just not see her and not love her, just asking her to lie all the time and being so fake about like her age, about her being her mom, etc. She has like the deepest betrayal wounds ever. Huge mother wounds. Now, the thing is, although Panthea is very aware, because she is the first one to say, she was the first one saying all of this, like, my mom, she can't ever like compliment me, even when my kids, I had experience with that also with the same person that I was talking about. Like, whenever anybody else, even like a small child, would have like an accomplishment, like, oh, she won this competition, immediately the mom, and you see her doing that at the table, Panthea's like, oh, my daughter won this competition or whatever, and the mom's like, that's nothing, I won something even bigger. The child is 7 or 8. And even the child clocks that it's not normal. She looks, and then she even says, I love how smart children are sometimes. The child goes, Grandma, I can't remember how she calls it. No, I think she calls her by her first name because she has to, again. Grandma, whatever. Have you ever told mom that you were proud of her for anything? Panthea jumps in, never. Okay. So you're like, okay. So Panthea is aware of her mother issues, but she's still close with her. And this is something that we're going to see very soon. She will not let go. And that, if she doesn't learn how to, that's going to be her downfall. It already is, given what I saw in this story. And she just keeps fighting with everyone. Panthea puts a lot of blame on her dad and her ex-husband. Her dad, they fled as a family to London when there was the Iranian Revolution. But then when the revolution was done, the father's family was like, can you come back? And the dad just left them in London and went back to Iran. So huge abandonment wound, again, huge trigger for people, something that causes BPD in many people. So huge father abandonment wound. And also then she got married super young. And the ex-husband, the whole time, was a huge liar, cheater. He had 4 mistresses, he had other children, etc., etc. Like, the biggest mess. So that again shows you why she goes crazy over lies and hypocrisy. Like, her whole life she suffered because of people not loving her enough. And all these people were also people who lied and were very deceitful. And this is why she is on edge. She's always, basically you could tell that it's this little girl who's terrorized of ever going through that type of pain again, and who is, as a result, on super high alert 24/7. But that results in her having to control every situation, in the sense that she's always the one talking. And also the fact that she was never seen, she's like a child who's also screaming, look at me, see me, see me, see me. Because everything, you know how we all have thoughts all the time, but we only voice maybe like 10% of them max. She voices 100% of them, which gets her in trouble all the time. She's like a child. Like, she says it herself, by the way, that she's like a child, which I think it's interesting to see that in many ways she does have self-awareness, but she is missing a huge piece of the puzzle. So like I said, she puts a lot of her issues on the fact, she explains that, oh, I am the way I am because of my dad and my ex-husband, blah, blah, blah. Yes, absolutely. These trash men are to blame for how she is in part, and her abandonment issues, her fear of deceitfulness, etc., etc. But the way she is still, I noticed that when she talked, the few times where she talked about her dad and her ex-husband were the few times where she was calmer. Okay. And she's never calm, which shows that she grieved those wounds and she kind of resolved them in her head. It's in her black and white BPD type of thinking, it works. It's like, oh, those people are black. I'll put the blame on them. There's no ambiguity or complexity here. But when you see the intensity of the triggers and how erratic she is the other times, and every time she's in the presence of a woman, she is very, you could just see this nervous energy flow through her. And this is why she's always so chaotic. And she ends up being in a quasi argument, if not a full blown argument, with every woman that she talks to, either in a group or one-on-one. There's not a single time where it doesn't happen. And this shows that it has nothing to do with the father and ex-husband wound. And there's a huge missing piece of the puzzle, which are her mother issues. And we're going to see this very soon. But we do tend to often put the blame on the wounds that are resolvable, where we don't have also hatred and love mixed, right? And we're going to see that with Jeanette McCurdy and Sharon Stone, which are, it breaks my heart, but yeah, I think many people will be able to relate to this. First, now let's go to the commentary where we're going to look at anger as an emotion, anger when it is repressed, and finally, anger where, like in Panthea's case, it is unbridled. So repression, uncontrollable, two ends of the spectrum, but yin and yang, like we saw. And what to do in her case if she doesn't want it to completely ruin her life. And by the way, in the women who, we're going to see it with the repression, but who repress their anger a lot, especially Amanda, you could see that it has also ruined her life in many ways. Like the divorces, she explains that she was extremely lonely and depressed at some point, but the way she expresses it, it is her and Panthea are truly the yang to each other's yang. And both are equally destructive. Female anger, there needs to be a balance. And we're going to see how to get that balance. So first of all, anger is an essential human emotion. If you watch the movie Inside Out, it's one of the 5 basic ones. It's like joy, anger, sadness, I guess shock, something like that. But anger is the top 3. You think, oh, angry, sad, happy, right? I read recently a book on shame called Healing the Shame That Binds You. And it's kind of like an encyclopedia on shame. And a huge chapter is dedicated to anger and how in women especially, anger is repressed, which is a huge problem because anger, while it is demonized, especially in women, it is so taboo. It is an essential human emotion because it is the emotion of self-protection. And the problem is, if you repress this thing that will come up every time someone crosses your boundary, every time someone is attacking you or a loved one, every time someone disrespects you in some way, then it's going to come out in very, very ugly ways. It comes out in the form of people pleasing. And this, as someone who used to have deep shame and repression regarding anger, it would be crazy. Like I would go, for example, for a haircut. And if they did a really bad job, I would be overly nice with them and I would tip them extra. And later on, I would go home and hate myself. So weird how the psychology of repression, so interesting and fascinating once you're on the other side. So yeah, people pleasing and fawning. There's fight, flight, freeze, fawn. Fawn is the people pleasing. It's like you submit. 2, a lot of passive aggressiveness. And I think we can agree, although I have seen many men be passive aggressive, but when you think of passive aggressiveness, why is it underlined in red? Oh, my bad. 2 G's. when you think of passive aggressiveness, you do think of women first, right? And this has to do with the fact that it is shamed a lot. A lot of times it has been framed as, oh, people who are passive aggressive, they're just bad people and they're meaner people than average. Even though having experienced it, I've been passive aggressive at times. I've received a lot of passive aggressiveness. On the moment, you're like, oh yes, this is the energy of evil. Actually, once you understand it, you're like, no, this is just repressed anger that needs to come out. And all, because anger, it's a very big and explosive emotion, right? It's like, but if you repress it, the energy that is felt inside is still the same, but it has to come out. There's no other way. And so it only has like a little tiny, it's this big, but it only has a little tiny hole like that to come out. So imagine how hot, if we're thinking of anger as fire, imagine how hot the air that's going through that tiny hole is. That is why passive aggressiveness, when you're on the receiving end of it, whew, hell hath no fury like a woman scorned. That's when you're thinking of that quote, okay? I still have men around me who, yeah, they tell me like, so when my girlfriend or whatever, or my sister, like when she's angry, it's a quiet type of anger, but it sends chill down my spine. I'm terrified. And these are grown men. So it just goes to show. The two last ones, projection, rejection, avoidance. And this is exactly what we have seen here. When you have repressed, like these women coming from their social circle, growing up of anger being shamed for them, they have learned to never express anger in a healthy manner and in a fully open manner. And so when they see Panthea here expressing it and being so explosive and loud and angry, ooh, the projection they feel is at such a core level, because it's years and years and years. Like these women are middle-aged, at least, even though they're gorgeous. It's years of angry repression that they see personified here, and all that shame. And I used to be like that. Like I repressed my anger because I had people growing up who were kind of like Panthea, and I was so traumatized by like huge anger that when I would see a woman act like that, I would feel hatred towards her. And I'm glad that I came across this series now that I did all the healing work, because I would have hated Panthea and just like judged her like they did. Because it would have truly, we're all mirrors to each other. So I would have seen my anger through her, and all that shame that I carried around it would have driven me crazy, and I could not have seen more than 10 minutes of Panthea getting angry because of it. And that is why rejection and avoidance. So conflict avoidance and also rejection. These women are trying to push Panthea out. Lastly, but not least, addiction. When I was in the throes of my anger, shame, and repression, I started therapy, and I was very in touch with my sadness, because women, and it's the complete opposite with men, right? But women are allowed to feel sad. Like it's even romanticized in a lot of movies and art, and even the aesthetic that a lot of girls take, like anger, like sadness in women, it's normal. There's this melancholy, and it's even like, it's aesthetic sometimes. I hate to say it, but I used to believe that. There's this aesthetic of like the sad woman, the woman who's just like, yeah, depressed all the time. And so we were in therapy, and like after a couple of months of therapy, when she really started getting to know me, she was like, okay, but do you ever get angry? I was like, no, I don't get angry. Like my reaction was crazy. I was like, I don't know. I just don't get angry. That's not me. She was like, really? She was like, first of all, like with everything that happened to you growing up, like surprising. Second of all, why do you think your binge eating is like as crazy as ever and you're binge drinking, which, by the way, both of which haven't binged in so long. No, guys, I'm so proud. I'm so proud. I'm so happy. This shows that it works. There's going to be lots of blood, sweat, and tears, guys. And there's going to be a lot of like relapses and like whatever. But when you're on the other side, it's even sweeter. When the darker the place you come from, the sweeter the honey is when you get to the other side and you come to the honey pot. Okay, terrible analogy. Sorry. Anyway, I genuinely thought that I had no anger, because what would happen with the addiction, let me tell you, sadness, I would feel all the sadness. And that's what she was telling me. She was like, why do you think you still have all these like behavioral issues, even though you're so in touch with your sadness? And I had to understand that there was this vicious circle of like, oh, anytime I would feel anger, the anger didn't even have time. Like, I didn't even have time to be like, oh, I'm angry, that I immediately felt shame. The moment someone would disrespect me or something, or I felt disrespected, something in my body, the shame in my body that was so ingrained would hijack, and it would be like, shame. And I would feel this deep sense of shame, which then toxic shame is the most unbearable feeling. And so then I would binge eat or binge drink, okay? And this whole time, I was just angry. I just had to feel my anger. I just had to feel anger for 100 different situations that had happened in my life. And yeah, it was not pleasant to do, let me tell you. But given how I feel now, I would do it 100 times again, okay? And this is why the fact that anger is so taboo and shamed in society, this is why all you hear about is the fact that women's nervous system is a complete mess. I'm still healing from over 25 years of this mess. Like, I have PMDD, I have PMOS, PCOS, I have insomnia. Like, this is what happens when you repress your feelings, okay? And here, I wanted to include this image also from Inside Out. So this is with a quote saying, angry is just sad's bodyguard, okay? It is the energy of self-preservation. It is not bad. Like, you being angry, you're not a bad person. You're not mean because you're angry. You're just having an emotion. Oh, why did it close? Second of all, I think I really wanted to, when I saw this image, this is exactly what the problem is, guys. See how they chose sadness to be a woman and anger to be a man? Nobody questioned that. I didn't question that until I decided to make a video about it. And this is the problem. And I think that if sadness had been a man and anger had been a woman, a lot of people would have felt very uncomfortable with that. It's like, oh, why did you make him like so weak, blah, blah, blah. And the women would have been like, oh, so anger is a woman, so we're hysterical, blah, 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 blah. So many layers. Yeah, because like this taboo of anger, the taboo of female anger, the problem is that it's at a personal level, it's on your family level, but it's also at a societal level. And this is why there's sometimes cultural classes, because these women come from different upbringings, different cultures, where, for example, I guess in Jamaica and Iran, being louder is not seen as unfeminine. But in these social circles, the wider circles, it is. Asian also. And so when they end up together for social economical reasons, which, by the way, people talk a lot about gender, about race, the biggest determinant of the people you're going to hang out with is your economic situation. That's just how it is today. Like, we are in the most capitalistic society ever. Some might even say a capitalistic hellscape. But yeah. And so there are these clashes now. Now, about female anger when it is shamed, and about female anger when it is repressed, there's so much that goes, like this could be a video essay in itself, but for now, I want to talk about why these women, when the fight broke, especially these women who are not part of the fight, why they immediately took her side, even though objectively, like we saw, based on the facts, she was 100% in the right. But they did not even care. Like, they did not even talk about the facts once, I believe. The fact that, like, and they all have children. Demure. These women were taught that if they, any sense of worth that they deserve to feel is contingent upon the fact that they can be deemed demure, quiet, modest, reserved. This is what they have to act like at all times. Because showing anger and taking up space, being loud, being big, it is seen as the greatest sin for these women and many women. And I fear more and more women, because it is something that is very marketable online. It is something that can make many women spend money. Because being demure at all times means that you are, again, rejecting an essential emotion. You are encouraged to practice emotional suppression, which is very unhealthy, which will make you insecure and create a lot of health issues, which then will make you spend money. It is that deep. Equally deep, this is why a lot of women, to no one's surprise, all of these women, it's the case for them, have Botox. They take Ozempic. Emotional suppression. You need to, and speak in a very like euphemistic, pleasant way all the time. You need to be quiet. You cannot take space. You have to have kind of this prepubescent look to you in terms of your body type, which is why often it makes you look older, despite all the work that you get. The Botox, you see these women trying to emote, it's scary. It's like she's furious and she's like, it was a very hard time. It's sad. It's truly sad. And so you can imagine for women who go through that type of emotional suppression and all the suffering that comes from it, how triggered they are by someone who is on the other end of the spectrum, okay? It is, yeah, it's their shadow. It's their biggest shadow, basically. They're each other's biggest shadows. Now, sorry, something weird happened with my phone. Panthea, now we're going to look at what happens with female anger when it is in its most taboo form, at least in the eyes of society, and when it is completely unbridled. And we're going to look at it through the lens of Panthea, Sharon Stone, and Jeanette McCurdy, both of which? I'm sorry, guys. I need to improve on that. Both of whom have shared a lot about their mother issues. If Panthea wants to keep hanging out with these women and have a chance to actually like feel happy, because you can see also like she's very attached to her social status. She's very attached. Like she brags about the fact that like she never washes her hair. Every week she gets like her hair professionally done and she washes it at a salon. None of her clothes are borrowed, blah, 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 blah. She's met the royal family, whatever. So yes, there is a strong desire from her to be a part of this social circle. But the fact that she says that she has zero tolerance for phoniness, that is going to be her downfall. It has to be one or the other. Either she works on her anger issues, which in fact are her mother issues, or if she doesn't do that, fate is going to choose for her. Like she's going to burn off all the connections and the network that she has, because especially in upper echelons of society, and especially in Britain, like the fact that she's upper class plus in the UK, those social circles, it's all about understatement. It's all about euphemism. She's the living representation of a hyperbole, but that culture really favors and celebrates euphemism. Like you have to be calm. When you're angry, you stay calm, and they're very conflict avoidant. And the priority is just to keep a good vibe, a pleasant vibe. It's all about politeness. And the thing is, I don't think one or the other is wrong. First of all, there's a cultural difference here that plays at play. And second of all, sometimes it's good. She sees everything as being fake. But for example, as I was saying earlier, every thought that comes in her head, she says it. Like she'll meet with a group of friends and she'll be like, oh, your hair looks weird today. Oh, that's a huge pimple on your face. Oh, didn't you wear that thing? She never stops. Because she perceives anything else other than that as phoniness. And that, I think, is another proof that she's on the BPD spectrum. Like it's so black and white for her. And this is a problem also with terminology and words. Like what one person calls polite, the other person calls fake. Even at one point, she was talking about the fight with her mom, her toxic mom, and she was saying, her mom was like, you have to be more diplomatic. And immediately Panthea says, so you want me to be fake? It's deep. Like it's deep in her. She really needs to work on it. Now, as we have seen, I think the reason why she's so reactive still, even at her age, and even though you can clearly see that she has worked through and grieved the abandonment and the betrayal from her ex-husband and her dad, it all has to do with her mother issues. Because as someone who has very intense black and white thinking, her mother, she can't is the one person in her life that she cannot categorize as black or white. And with her perception of the world, that drives her crazy. For that, I want to talk about two people. First of all, Jeanette McCurdy. Recently, I read her memoir, fantastic memoir called I'm Glad My Mom Died. The thing is, when I first read the title, I was like, oh, this is going to be either a story about how she hated her mom the whole time, or she didn't hate her mom the whole time, but by the end it was getting really bad to a point where when her mom died, she felt huge relief. Okay? Not at all. Not at all. And this is why I wanted to include her in this video. You learn her mom dies towards the middle of the book, or at least like the 2/3, but there was a lot of story left. So I was quite surprised myself. And you realize that when her mom died, Jeanette McCurdy was devastated. She was like, what am I going to do without her? And for years after that, she dealt with eating disorders, alcoholism, terrible abusive relationships, etc. And it's only years later when she went to therapy, and the first time that that the therapist even dared to mention, oh, but your mom, like the way you're talking about her, like there's certain things that were abusive. She went crazy and she ghosted that therapist for a long time and went back to drinking and eating disorders, okay? And it took her many, many years to resolve that. And it was the source of all the chaos in her life. Second of all, and I really pray that the audio is gonna work. Worst case scenario, I don't think anybody's watching this stream live. If you are, hi. The worst case scenario, I'll just add it in the edit. So here we go. This is Sharon Stone talking about the very complicated relationship she had with her mom, which she says never really liked her or acted as such.
often as if my mom behaved often as if she didn't like me at all. She had a very, very awful childhood and was removed from her home when she was 9 because she was so violently abused. When my mom died, she was at my house and I was taking care of her, but she was terrified to die because she was afraid her parents would be there. So I had to lie to her and tell her that her father was in jail and her mother was in a mental hospital and they weren't going to be there. And the night that she was dying, she was really fighting it. And it was down to those moments where they titrate the morphine and they're like, oh, she's going to die in 4 hours. And my mom was holding on and holding on. And I finally realized I have to let go.
Okay, listen very closely because this is the key to the next couple things she's going to say.
I need to stop walking in the room. I need to go upstairs and ignore my mother so she will die. I need to detach and release. And she's only going to die if I let go.
Okay, listen well.
Which was hard because I wanted those things, Anderson. I wanted her to say, I'm proud of you. I love you. I'm sorry. You're important to me. And I wasn't going to get them. And
that's enough. This is exactly the issue, Panthea's issue, okay? She's looking for a resolution. She's hanging on. She has very black and white thinking. Her mom has showed her that per Panthea's perception of what is black and white, her mom has showed her thousands of times that her mom should be in the black category. But she keeps seeing her every week. She keeps being close to her, eating with her, going to the salon with her. Panthea, just like Sharon Stone explains that from the start, she felt that her mom didn't like her. And all those years, she was suffering and still keeping contact with her mom and hoping that she would one day say, sorry, I see you, I love you. To the point where on her deathbed, she was still hoping for those things. It's heavy, and it's the same thing. It's the same thing with Panthea. When you see the way she interacts with other women, that is a child. She even says so. See what I was talking about, the self-awareness that Panthea has sometimes. When she was fighting with Juliet, she was like, oh my God, when I see her, I turn into this child, uncontrollable child. It's like, yes, that's your mother wound reflected to you. That is you still keeping your mom in your life and still desperately, every time you're with other women and these women exhibit anything that hurt you with your mom, you're going to see red. You're going to split. She's an adult, but she is controlled by that inner child that is saying, see me, love me, find me important enough to not betray me. Find me important enough to not value being fake for your own self-preservation rather than loving me and protecting me. And so she sees everything all these other women are doing as a personal attack. She's reliving that terrible, awful wound over and over and over. And the thing is, if she wants to stay in these social circles because she loves the social status and the money and everything, she's going to have to work through her mother issues. And if she does that, she will see, and I've experienced that with other things, but like once you work through your issues that are the most hidden and complex and not so black and white, you're then going to go back in the world and you're going to realize, damn, like I'm in these situations where people are sometimes doing things that would have made me go crazy before. And now I'm just like, whatever. Crazy how that works. And that's the only way she can have a chance at happiness while staying in those social circles that she's in, where everybody is going to be very polite and non-confrontational and not say everything that goes on their mind. So yeah, Panthea, the example, the taboo of female anger in all of its forms. Panthea representing the extreme, the one that is the most shamed in society, unbridled anger, loud, explosive. And then the other women who are great examples of the complete opposite, repressed anger that also shows up in ugly ways. One is shamed by society. The other isn't, but is very destructive, as we saw, because it leads to people pleasing, projection, addiction, etc. It is an important topic. It is important to talk about these things because the more we talk about them, the more people can get in touch with them. And once you get in touch with all of your emotions, that is the way you can heal. And if we all do that, there would be so much less abuse in the world. God damn it. And it's the same for men in sadness. A lot of men who have anger issues are just very sad. And a lot of women who are deeply depressed are very angry, okay? There is a way to healthily express your anger as a woman. And I was thinking of recent healthy examples that are very mainstream so that maybe you could know about them. I was thinking, for example, Meg the Stallion, who recently went through a very public breakup and openly said, oh, so this man that I was dating and so in love with, turns out he was cheating on me the whole time, whatever. I think she expressed her anger in a very healthy way. First of all, she did not repress it. The way she publicly said, oh, I was playing house, I was cooking for him, I was doing this and that. A lot of women would not have, and I've known women that like that and my friends and stuff, would not have publicly admitted that because you're like, oh, I'm that dumb girl, or the word that's trending these days is bird. See, even the fact that on TikTok, I'm seeing sometimes people talk about female celebrities that are in toxic relationships and calling them bird as in, oh, bird brain, you're stupid. You're not going to achieve anything if you think you're helping these women, which I don't think you are, by shaming them. And because of that, these women will not be able to heal because they will keep the abuse inside because they're ashamed. Megan Thee Stallion was like, no, I'm not a dumb idiot. Like, this man made me believe that this was true love. And so I was acting like a housewife. I was cooking for him, for his parents on Thanksgiving, blah, blah, blah. Second thing that I thought was very healthy, and this is connected to the second example that I have. She did a song. She did a diss track. I think it's like, all that wifey shit is dead. Put that shit to bed. Then it gets explicit. It's Meg Thee Stallion. But that is so healthy. You can feel that she's angry in the song, but she's not abusing anyone. She's not hurting anyone. She's creating, expressing it, getting it out, and creating. And I think that is the healthiest way to get over negative emotions, whether it's sadness or anger, okay? Or any type of subset of those emotions. And the second example, listen, I know she's a super controversial figure. Like, she's truly a mystery to me. But every time I see a clip of Candace Owens, I also feel like she has a healthy relationship with her anger somewhat. Like, the clip that I saw, I was kind of lucky, I guess, as I was making this video, is her admitting, she's like, oh, you guys found out that I was pregnant because when I'm pregnant, I'm super angry. And yes, I'm very angry these days, blah, blah, blah. Like, but she was keeping kind of like this calm and composed demeanor. And so I went and looked at her page, like her YouTube page, and you can see, oh, you could see she was angry, but it was done in a way that was still professional. And you could see she just looks healthy, first of all the time. I don't know if she is, but she's very composed. and she is in touch with her emotions. And when she's angry, she says it. But she's not like, yeah. She's like, I'm furious, blah, 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 blah. So it's the same thing of getting it out. That is what it is. It's like removing. My previous video is about this as well. Removing any shame that removing any shame that you have tied to any of your emotions. You should not have shame tied to your emotions. Emotions are something that are as essential as breathing, as essential as, well, I was going to say your period, but somehow we ended up shaming women for that, even though it's like literally one of the most basic things, mechanisms in the female body. But anyway, topic for another day, So yeah, the taboo of female anger. Fascinating topic for sad reasons. I'll admit, fascinating nonetheless. I hope you enjoyed this video. I had a lot of fun making it. In many ways, it was also healing for me. And this is why what I'm saying about being creative and expressing things, I truly encourage every person. It doesn't have to be your job. Like it could be journaling. It could be you talking in front of a camera or not. It could be dance. Like just be creative and intentionally express and let your emotions out. It doesn't have to be through therapy if you can't afford it. You're very lucky if you have people in your life that you can vent to. But it needs to come out and you need to remove the shame. Okay? All right. That's all for today. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you very soon in about a week. And until then, I hope you have a wonderful time where you enjoy the present and feel all the emotions with no judgment. Bye.